In 1937, a young journalist, nervous and full of doubts about entrepreneurship, finally managed to get an interview with the richest man of that era, John D. Rockefeller. Instead of asking about oil or complex business strategies, he let out the question everyone wished they could ask. What's the secret behind your fortune? Rockefeller smiled with that look people get when they understood everything about discipline and consistency long before it became trendy. The answer he gave had nothing to do with luck. It was a quiet philosophy that guided every step of his life. It was as if he carried invisible codes, known only by those who truly seek results. Rockefeller shared that his wealth didn't come from one big event, but from small choices repeated every single day. He talked about emotional control like someone talking about an old friend, because he knew anyone who lacks it ends up sabotaging themselves. The journalist realized Rockefeller's motivational lines were different. They weren't canned phrases. They were lived experiences. And the more he explained, the clearer it became that money was just a consequence of the right mindset. A mindset built with raw, stubborn self-confidence day after day. Trying to keep up with that logic, so simple yet so massive at the same time, the journalist noticed how calmly Rockefeller explained everything. He didn't act superior. He spoke like a mentor casually talking to a friend. He used metaphors, short stories, and even a touch of humor, as if wealth was a game anyone disciplined enough could learn to play. And that shattered the idea that getting rich depended on genius. The real power was more in how he thought than in how much he earned. With every sentence, Rockefeller planted a seed in the reporter's mind, showing that wealth isn't born out of desperate effort, but out of a system built with consistency. And that detail shook the journalist, because no one had ever talked about money in such a human way. Rockefeller spoke about environment, choices, habits, and how the mind defines results long before the work even starts. All of it said with the ease of someone who already knows that money doesn't like mental chaos. Money likes clarity. When the journalist thought he had already heard the most important part, Rockefeller leaned forward like someone about to reveal something precious. That's when he mentioned, almost in a whisper, that there were invisible rules behind his fortune. Simple rules, but ignored by most people who run around without knowing where they're going. And in that instant, the journalist realized he was about to enter the hidden side of the most strategic mindset in the history of wealth, a side that began with the first big rule. Rockefeller always said most people work as if they're carrying water in a leaky bucket. They work hard, sweat, complain, but never build a system that keeps money flowing in their favor. That perception changed everything for the young journalist, because he understood entrepreneurship wasn't about working more. It was about working smarter. Rockefeller reinforced that discipline without direction becomes nothing more than accumulated exhaustion. And nobody wants to live tired without seeing results, right? With the calm of someone who mastered emotional control long ago, Rockefeller explained his famous phrase, "I'd rather earn 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own." He didn't say that out of laziness, but out of strategy. It was the philosophy of systems, of flow, of consistency, the things that create wealth without the need for daily heroics. While most people bet everything on their own strength, he bet on structures that worked even while he slept. The journalist was impressed by the simplicity of that idea. Rockefeller showed that anyone could do the same. Build routines, partnerships, mechanisms, and tiny gears that together lighten the load and multiply results. He talked about this in such a friendly tone that it even sounded easy. Not because it was simple, but because everything becomes lighter when you build long-term self-confidence and accept that no one gets rich alone. Rockefeller emphasized that life changes when you stop asking for more money and start asking for a better system. He believed that earning more without structure is like trying to fill a leaking boat. Sooner or later, it sinks. With a half smile, he dropped one of those motivational phrases that stings. Money loves organization, and it runs from chaos like the devil runs from the cross. The journalist wrote down every word, feeling like he was being handed a hidden map of wealth. And before moving on to the next rule, Rockefeller left a subtle provocation hanging in the air. Now that you understand money needs a system, you need to understand what to do with it once it arrives. And that sentence, said so softly, led straight into the second rule, a truth few people want to hear, but one that separates those who accumulate wealth from those who just chase it. Rockefeller used to laugh whenever someone said they'd get rich as soon as they started making more money. To him, that was the biggest self-delusion of modern entrepreneurship. He said that whoever can't save when they have little won't save when they have a lot. It's pure lack of discipline and emotional control. The journalist listened silently, realizing those motivational phrases weren't pretty theories. They were direct hits to the soul. Because deep down, everyone knows spending money is way too easy. Saving is what takes consistency. Rockefeller shared that since he was young, he separated a portion of everything he earned. It didn't matter if the amount was small, almost symbolic. He saved it anyway. And that constant habit sent a silent message to the mind. I have more than I need. That day-to-day self-confidence was what prepared the ground for big results in the future. The journalist was struck by the simplicity of the method. It felt like a wise father teaching his son not to waste his own destiny. He explained that saving money isn't about deprivation. It's about strategy. Those who save aren't losing. They're planning their next moves. Rockefeller said the financial world rewards those who know how to wait, who don't panic, who respect their own plan. And with his subtle humor, he'd add, if you don't control your money, it controls you. And it does it with unbelievable cruelty. The journalist chuckled awkwardly, because that one hurt. Rockefeller also reinforced that saving is more psychological than mathematical. It's a daily training of emotional control, looking at a temptation and saying, not today. And that, he said, was the kind of attitude that separates people who only dream from the ones who actually build concrete results. Saving, he claimed, was the first sign of loyalty anyone showed to their future wealth. After all, no one gives more money to someone who can't handle a little. And before shifting to the next topic, Rockefeller let another thought hang in the air, one that left the journalist a bit uneasy. Now that you know how to save, you need to learn from those who've already walked this path. And just like that, without hurry or pressure, he guided the reporter into the next rule, the one that shows how the company you keep shapes your destiny. Rockefeller said nobody grows while surrounded by people who shrink their dreams. He truly believed the environment shapes destiny, and that without consistency in choosing who you spend your time with, even the greatest talent gets lost. The journalist listened carefully as he explained that the secret wasn't just learning, but learning from people who actually live what they teach. That's where real entrepreneurship begins, in the silent act of choosing who influences your thoughts. Because without noticing, your mind adjusts to the group's standard. He revealed that before becoming famous, he paid to be in rooms where great visionaries exchanged ideas. It wasn't about status, it was strategy. Rockefeller knew self-confidence grows when you hang around people who think bigger than you. That's why he said motivational quotes are great, but conversations with the right people are transformative. The journalist started seeing that it wasn't traditional networking. It was a curation of brilliant minds, people who inspired discipline without even saying a word. Rockefeller insisted that when you walk beside people who've already achieved the results you want, your own mind begins seeing possibilities that once seemed out of reach. He explained it with a soft humor. It's like weightlifting. Training next to someone who lifts more makes you grow faster. The journalist laughed. It made perfect sense. It's impossible not to grow in environments that pull you upward. But Rockefeller also warned that the wrong environments drain energy and sabotage emotional control. Negative people turn any plan into doubt, any discipline into exhaustion, any vision into fear. He said this with the calmness of someone who had seen many talented people give up due to the wrong influence. He emphasized that protecting your mind is just as important as protecting your money, because a contaminated mind doesn't build solid results. And before moving to the next revelation, Rockefeller opened another silent door in the conversation. Being around the right people strengthens your mind, but there's something that strengthens it even more: investing in yourself before anything else. With that subtle phrase, he guided the journalist into the next rule, perhaps one of the most powerful of them all. Rockefeller said no wealth survives when the mind is poor. For him, real entrepreneurship starts with the silent investment no one sees: internal development. The journalist was stunned as he heard Rockefeller explain that every day he dedicated time to learning something new, building self-confidence and expanding his vision. The motivational lines he dropped were just reflections of what he had built inside himself. There was no escaping it. Without personal improvement, there's no consistency in results. He shared that he read daily, sometimes for hours, because he knew knowledge builds emotional discipline. When the mind is strong, decisions are strong. When the mind is weak, any breeze becomes a storm. Rockefeller talked about this with such simplicity. It felt like a grandfather teaching his grandson how to take care of his own head. And the journalist noticed This learning routine was what allowed Rockefeller to maintain emotional control even in the worst moments. Rockefeller also made sure to care for his physical health. He believed the body and mind are an inseparable duo in wealth building. He said no one makes good decisions when they're exhausted, irritated, or on the verge of burnout. He joked, "You can't build empires while running on sleep debt." The journalist laughed but got the message. Good results require a body strong enough for the journey. His philosophy was crystal clear. Before spending money on external investments, invest in skills no one can take from you. Knowledge, vision, mental clarity, emotional intelligence, these create infinite return. Rockefeller said learning was like sharpening a sword. It stings a little, takes time, but makes you unbeatable. The journalist began to see that this simple principle was likely one of the strongest pillars in Rockefeller's entire philosophy. Before revealing the next rule, Rockefeller paused on purpose, looked the journalist in the eyes, and said, "When you strengthen yourself on the inside, you're ready for the game outside." And that's where most people lose their heads, especially in moments of crisis. With that sentence, he opened the door to one of the most strategic lessons of his life. Rockefeller said anyone can seem smart when everything is going well. The real test appears when the world collapses. And that's exactly what the journalist realized when Rockefeller told him how he faced the Great Depression. While millions panicked, he stayed disciplined, emotionally controlled, and strangely calm. "Crisis reveals who's consistent," he said, like someone stating an old truth nobody likes admitting. The journalist understood that great results are born precisely in the chaos most people try to avoid. Rockefeller analyzed crisis with cold strategy. He saw desperation as smoke. While everyone else ran, he observed. While everyone sold, he bought. He said money changes hands during crisis, and usually flows to those who keep self-confidence when everyone else loses it. This almost went against common sense, and the journalist realized this distinction separated amateurs from true masters of entrepreneurship. He explained that acting calmly isn't naive. It's seeing reality without the filter of fear. Rockefeller joked, "Panic makes people blind, and I buy everything they drop." The journalist laughed but got the point. Panic destroys opportunities, while emotional balance creates doors where there were only walls. Emotional control turned into pure strategy. To Rockefeller, every crisis was a silent redistribution. He believed life gives back to the disciplined what the impatient throw away. Crisis, he said, wasn't the end. It was cleanup. A fertile field where only those who plant while everyone else is afraid to even look around end up growing. The journalist had never thought about it that way, and he felt he was hearing something that could change the life of anyone brave enough to apply it. Before moving on to the next rule, Rockefeller dropped a light but deep provocation. If you learn to act calmly in crisis, now you must learn to act urgently when everything's calm. That unexpected reversal led the journalist straight into the next lesson, perhaps the most paradoxical of the 7. Rockefeller said most people live on the wrong extreme. They're urgent when afraid and slow when it's time to act. He explained to the journalist that wealth is built like planting a tree, with consistency and discipline, but also with the patience of someone who knows no seed becomes shade overnight. The secret, he said, was taking action fast, but accepting that results come slowly. And the journalist realized how much emotional control this requires. Rockefeller said he started young because he knew time is the biggest ally of those who trust their own process. If you wait to start, you lose years that never come back, he'd say with that subtle humor only the wise have. His motivational sentences weren't cliches. They were reminders from someone whose life changed simply because he took action before conditions were perfect. The journalist felt almost personally called out, as if Rockefeller were speaking directly to him. He explained that urgency doesn't mean reckless rushing, it means movement. It means not procrastinating the right decision. Rockefeller believed life rewards those who try, not those who just plan. He said many people quit because they don't see immediate results, and that always exposed a lack of consistency. The seed doesn't care that you're in a hurry, he'd joke, making the journalist smile. The message was clear. Time works as long as you work too. Rockefeller reinforced that patience doesn't mean passivity. It means vision. He said those with clarity of purpose can withstand time without despair. Those with emotional control can endure the highs and lows without self-sabotage. And those with discipline turn small steps into major victories over the months. The journalist began to see that this duo, urgency to act and patience to harvest, was perhaps the most powerful mechanism in entrepreneurship. Before revealing the last rule, Rockefeller delivered a sentence that sounded almost like a warning. You act, you plant, you wait, and then you learn nothing truly grows if you don't create value before receiving. With that thought, he smoothly guided the journalist to the seventh and final rule, the most human yet the most strategic of all. In the end, knowing these rules changes absolutely nothing unless you actually apply them. And now I ask you, how much longer will you keep repeating the same routine and expecting different results? How much longer will you leave your future in the hands of luck when you could shape it with discipline, strategy, and real action? Life only gets better for those who decide to move it. And if nothing changes, it's because you still haven't made the decision you needed. So be honest with yourself. What exactly are you going to do today to break out of this loop? Which rule will you apply first? And what are you waiting for to take control of your own story? The answer is yours, and it defines where you'll be a year from now. If this content hit you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you'll keep learning everything you need to transform your mind, your money, and your life. The change starts now.